I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The Irreverent Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Nerds, I have some exciting news to share. We are now offering a monthly subscription service for our listeners. For the low price of $2.99 per month, subscribers will gain access to 2 bonus episodes and an invitation to a Zoom gathering. Additionally, subscribers who sign up for our email list are eligible to be entered into a monthly prize drawing. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link in the episode description today to get started.
Nerds.
We are here with the inimitable, I like that word. I use that maybe too much, but the inimitable Elijah Miller. Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
It's been a couple months. And yeah, man, like we're excited to have you on again. We talked about doing this last time. By the way, nerds, if you haven't listened to the first episode where we interviewed Elijah Miller, you know, we got into more of like his backstory and like how he got into art and all of that. And go check that out. Just it's a couple months back in our podcast history. But yeah, so he's here to give us an update on how things are going and talk comics. This is comic book week. So that's kind of our main focus.
Comic book week.
Comic book week, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, this season we've been trying kind of that flow of like sci-fi, comic books, anime, and then movie of the month has kind of been our schedule flow. So that's been an experiment this season.
All right.
But yeah, man, Elijah, how you doing, man? How's life?
Well, I mean, it's pretty interesting right now. To be honest, it's definitely been quite a journey, you know, since the last time. But art's doing a whole lot better. I feel like I tell this to people a lot when like I've been talking with my friends or family lately, but for at least a couple months now, maybe even like just starting like a couple months into this year or last year, it's like I'm kind of at a point where the art is really, I guess, business wise, like paying for itself. Like it's kind of getting to that point of being self-sustaining. And
awesome. That's great.
The experience of that has just been like just pretty interesting, like watching it happen in real time, and being able to think back to when like I wished it would feel this way. And, of course I still want to do it bigger and better, but like I could still appreciate like what the progress I've made thus far is kind of like the space it's put me in creatively to be able to, if I need like something to make something, it's like, I can use what I earned from like the last thing I did, and I don't have to touch like any of my personal finances. And, having it like that has been like, it's felt pretty nice, honestly. Yeah, but life's cool. Just honestly, just looking for a new job, really, and yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, everything else has been pretty cool. Just trying to stay consistent. Yeah,
awesome, man. That's exciting. So, when you say sustaining, like, do you mean like breaking even in terms of like expenses versus revenue that you're making, or like actually making a profit at this point? Or
I mean, making a profit, but then also being able to like put that back, reinvest that into the business.
Yeah.
To kind of, keep things flowing. Yeah. So I'll be honest, I haven't crunched like all the numbers in depth to know like what's what with everything, but I know that I've been able to make enough money to where, I can pretty much like feed it back into the business and be able to kind of, so it's like, all right, if I need like a vendor spot somewhere or a table at a convention, or, if I need, to get some supplies or whatever, it's like the money's there, but it's like it all comes from the art.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if I've like totally broke even yet. I know I have on certain investments, like the t-shirts I had before. I already know at this point that I've definitely like made well over my initial investment in those, resource wise. But like, for the most part, it's just that like being able to use money from the business to keep it going and just continue to grow. We'll continue to push itself forward in that aspect. Yeah.
That's great, man. That really is exciting. Like I've gotten the chance to watch my wife build her art business over the years. Like she'd only been able to do it part time, Um it's like we kind of the way we had it broken down is like I was working full time and she was staying home with the kids, and she fit it in wherever she could, but just slowly built up her client base over the last 8 years. And now this year we've been able to go like not quite full time, but like pretty close, like where I'm kind of doing the stay at home dad thing and she's doing that. And but yeah, she's gotten a lot of momentum, and yeah, it's exciting to see that. It's exciting to see um artists succeed.
Yeah.
That's
The past 14 years, I've been able to see my career kind of become malnourished, like one of those children in those commercials that you don't want to watch because they want money and you're so sad.
oh yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one guy. What was it? Not Compassion International. Like it was some other, that one you would always see come up on the infomercial is like the same guy, and he always has like a starving child next to him or something.
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that's like the most infamous one.
Yeah, I can't remember the
send your
name.
money now to my Patreon.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that organization got in trouble too because
Oh, really?
they didn't, not enough money from donations was going to the actual kids.
Oh man,
It's not good.
No, not,
yeah.
not good.
I can't think of the name of it. I probably shouldn't say it even if I could, because in case I'm wrong about that. But yeah. Well, cool. Well, you mentioned t-shirts. So obviously you've got, well, you got a sweatshirt on right now, and
Yeah.
in our yeah. So we got the logo: minimum wage, squeeze a dream out of dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and guys, those of you who are just listening audio on podcast, you can see some of this. I think I'm looking right now on your Instagram. You got that logo up here.
Yeah.
So yeah, he is at be the influence underscore BMSR, guys. So check out his Instagram, and then ElijahMillerArt.com. Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
I was looking on there. I noticed you had I'm not sure if this is new or if it's been up a while, and I just didn't notice it last time. Have a Nomad T-shirt or the Explorer T-shirt. Is that
Oh yeah.
new or?
Yeah, those have been up for a little while now. I haven't updated with any new merch since I haven't done like a full size run of anything yet. I've just been experimenting on my own because I've been getting like from the last time I got merch, I've been getting back into like some of the DIY stuff. But those shirts though, those were like the first shirts I got made for that I outsourced. So I hit up a screen printer in Greensboro.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, his name's Logan Hamilton.
Yeah.
On Instagram. He has a few Instagrams, but I know like I think his main art account is Blood Soaked Nib.
Blood soaked. I went to look him up. Yeah.
Yeah, he screen printed those t-shirts for me, and you know it was interesting, when it came to even getting the shirts made because I found out about Logan when I was in college. One of my friends told me about him. Logan went to UNCG. And my homeboy at that time, he told me, he's like, yeah, like you and him are like pretty similar as far as style. Like you are kind of like the counterparts of each other. So I'm like, oh, that's what's up. And then I ended up meeting him at the skate park,
Ah,
Latham Skate Park, yeah. And we chopped it up, and I used to see him a lot at my job at the art store. So one time I hit him and I was just like, yo, like I'm try and get some shirts made, and you know, got it done, and I honestly couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it looks like you did
Cool.
a good job of that. I'm looking here at his art. Yeah, it'll give you nightmares.
Yeah, I definitely the type of stuff I like.
Yeah.
I definitely dig his art a lot, man.
It um kind of how I might think about it is like it's like if your art style, and are you familiar with H.R. Giger at all from the
Oh
Alien?
yeah, design like the alien
Yeah.
stuff and all
Like
that.
if you and Giger had a baby, it might be his style. That's kind
Oh
of
wow.
what it looks like to, just first glance. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Very I like the black and white. Like he's definitely committed to the black and white.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool though. So do you sell some of those like when you're out at events or pop-ups, or is it all online at this point?
Um,
Oh,
most um, most of it still comes from like in person events. So I'll be honest, there's definitely like new things I need to update my site with. I've just been like honestly kind of lazy when it comes to like the, taking photos and merchandising. And I even bought a photo box that I have used to some degree, but not as much as I should. So that's something I definitely need to do. But on my social media, I still try to let people know, what I have. But at events like the shirts have definitely started to pick up a little more. It's been kind of sporadic with those, but I always keep them around because you never know who'll pick one up. So um, over time, though, I'll say it's definitely been a good investment. Um, Having everything come out good, but then you put it out to the people and people actually buy it and consume it, and it's like, all right, like, you know, it's definitely like a good feeling. And over time, like I'll say it's definitely paid off, even if they all didn't like sell out in like the first month I got them. It's like, you know, you got to remember to play the long game. And I learned that with art and merchandising. Like, that's the thing, it's like, contrary to popular belief, just because you put it on a t shirt doesn't mean everyone's going to buy it. Um,
No, that's true.
Unless it's, sometimes the person who tells you should put it on a t shirt never buys a t shirt.
no.
Um,
Yes.
you know, so but yeah, over time, like those have definitely done pretty good for me. Especially when I've been at like bigger events like festivals. I think I saw one or two at the Greensboro Food Truck Festival. Um, I had a spot out there and did pretty good. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, that shirts, merchandise, definitely been like, my bread and butter as far as I guess, doing vendor events as a side hustle, moving the art. Yeah. But yeah, I still got a few of those shirts left though. Like I think it's only like maybe one, two X. I think I have like a couple mediums and like maybe some smalls. So, from the initial run, it feels pretty good to finally see that get thinned out.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Seeing people want your stuff. Yeah,
So
see,
yeah.
we probably talked about this the last time I was trying to remember, but I see Nomad pop up a lot. Can you remind us what the significance of Nomad is?
So Nomad is the title for the graphic novel I'm working on featuring the mops, which are the characters I draw with the zipper faces and the buggy eyes. And that's a series that like I've been developing the characters since maybe 2015, and I've just started like storyboarding and well, I've been storyboarding for a while, but this year I've actually been putting more pen to paper as far as producing the actual comic. And I was actually working on a cover for the um the first comic. I guess it could be like a little preview. It's the blue pencil, so I don't know if it'll show up as good.
Nice.
Oh yeah, that looks really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So initially, earlier this year, I was entering a competition through an independent like comic book publisher called Saturday AM.
Uh-huh.
Um, And basically they have this thing called Summer of Manga where people submit pitches for a manga. This was the first year that artists and writers could submit. Before it was just artists. So that was kind of interesting. But I pitched it and didn't advance to the next round of the competition. If I did, I would have been paired with the editor, and they would have gave like a page count to do a one shot that would have been featured in their. They do like a online anthology of comics. So I was aiming for that, and it didn't go as planned. So now I kind of have the freedom to do it, not just do it myself, but put it out the way I want to, you know. So now my goal is to do like now that I'm not putting it on hold because of that, I want to do at least, like a 20 to 25 page story of an idea that I've storyboarded and thought about for, a decent amount of time this year. Just wanted to do like a cool story, front to back, a one shot that can introduce people to the world and the characters. So, yeah, I'm actually really excited about that right now. Um, Nomad has been some like a brainchild forever. And I think at one point I might have gotten like anxious about possibly messing it up because I've worked on it so long. So then I'm like, all right, like I don't want the first book to suck. And
Yeah.
it's funny because it was actually my girl who pointed out to me. She was like, I like the other comic you do, minimum wage, but she was like, I feel like you're kind of using it as a distraction from Nomad because you don't want to mess it up. And at first I kind of pushed back, but when I thought about it, I was like, you know what, like, you know, she is kind of right because I do think a lot about if if the first story is not received well or people don't connect to the characters well, and it's like, well, I've been working on these things for like what almost more than 10 years now, like like, but I kind of have to remind myself as a creative, those are the risks we take when we're doing this work. And if it, you just have to do it. And that's kind of what the minimum wage comic was, for me, I guess, segueing into that, because I went to a panel with the creators from Saturday AM, and they talked about their company and how to submit manga to them. And that's when I kind of had the spark to say, all right, well, let me just see if I could do a short project with like minimal parameters and see if I could produce a good comic or something interesting. And that's where this came through. And it just kind of happened to snowball from there. So while I'm still like, doing both things, like Nomad is definitely something that I want to have out this year. Like I want more people to see the characters in sequential art format. I want people to be able to see what they could do. Like I explain, when I'm selling art and print, I explain a lot of what the mops can do and what the Nomad story is about, but giving people something they can pick up and flip through and, really experience it in motion, so to speak, is definitely something I'm looking forward to. So hopefully, definitely before the year's over. I can't put an exact date on it, but Nomad is definitely coming though.
That's great, man. Yeah. And I know when we talked last time, you mentioned kind of as a long-term goal, like having an anthology that you work with that where you realize that you needed to break it down into manageable segments. Time, does that still the plan, like long term, of like you mentioned like your first one being like 25? I mean, I guess in a sense it'd be, I guess, not quite the same as doing like issues of comics and then having like a trade paperback, but maybe a similar
Yeah, I mean it's similar. I mean, definitely like the same format. Because I definitely want to have like I definitely want to be able to have like the coffee table book or like the artist edition type thing. So that's definitely like one of the long term things, is being able to compile stories and give people stuff like that. Um, but yeah, for sure, it's definitely still my aim with it.
Nice. So that's got to be exciting to like be making some progress on that and getting it out of storyboard onto on the paper and stuff. Like, imagine that feels good.
Yeah, like it's because the ideas have to grow. It's like it's cool when they're in the sketchbook and stuff, and whatever. But it's like you can't just be like a sketchbook superhero. You gotta get out of the book, get onto the paper, get it to the print, get it to the people. The most important thing is for people to see it. Because it's all communication. So and lately I've just been, the more I put myself out there, the more I see people connecting with it. So I'm like, all right, if they already connect to it, in these, illustrations or prints, that I have out there, it's like, I know they're going to like it in when I put it in the book form. So yeah, I've just been, I don't know, I've just been pretty excited about it, honestly. But yeah, like I'm definitely like happy to see people already getting like into the characters, into the story. I explained the lore and it makes sense. So being able to expand on that, because I think me and one of my good friends the other day, my friend Millen, we were talking about. He asked me, he was like, "Well, where do mops come from?" And I was like, "Oh, well, they're essentially all of them are born from inkwell on their home planet. So kind of like the primordial ooze, so to speak, but it's where they spawned from, and their world was pretty much created by a group of mops who would be like, I guess, the ancestors or the initial ones who were born from this inkwell. And each of them used their abilities to create the sections of the planet, like the flora, the fauna, and stuff like that. So that's pretty much how their world came to be. And he was like, I've never asked you about the lore before. And I'm like, well, yeah, I've been working on it for a while, though. It feels good to talk about it. And that's when it kind of hit me. It's like that's exactly why I need to get this book out, because it's like I need to give that to people, so they can understand. And even if that information doesn't all come in the first issue, it's like over time you get to expand on these things. So it also, thinking about it that way takes off the pressure of feeling like I have to explain every last thing in this one initial story. And it's like, just put it out there and give them somewhere to start. And then they can pick up everything else, the Easter eggs and all that stuff later along the way.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's something I enjoy, like in storytelling, whether it's TV, movies, comic book world, whatever it might be, novels. I like creators who you kind of jump right into the story, but then kind of organically. I mean, obviously for them it was not necessarily as organic, but in terms of how the reader experiences it, like, or the consumer of the art form, like that, you find out the backstory more organically, maybe
Mm.
through the eyes of the other characters as well. And I enjoy that more than someone who tries to just do like info dump. This is the backstory of the world. It's like
Right.
having it happen more.
Speech bubbles everywhere.
Yeah. Like, I think I don't mind a little bit of that. Like, it depends on the but yeah, no, to me, like the more organic way, that adds some mystery too. Is like you start to get curious, you just drop a little, like you said, the little Easter eggs, or like, and someone's like, well, wait, what about or where did that come from, or and then you can flesh it out. That keeps people interested. I feel like, so that's cool. That's cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of stories, like um, I know we want to talk some comics. Like,
Oh yeah.
I imagine that
I'm ready for this.
doing it kind of as a job. Like, do you read much in the comic book world these days, or because I know sometimes when you're creating it, at least I know that's true for me. Maybe for you, Will, sometimes too. Is like you don't always want to read other people's work because you're making your work. But
Yeah.
have you read anything recently that's resonated with you, or
Recently, all right. Well, recently there's a few manga titles that I follow pretty closely. I've been going back and rereading some stories that I like, and I've also been getting back. I've actually been getting back into comic strips.
Oh,
Um, that was like those were pretty much like the genesis for my comic book consumption growing up. I wasn't reading like a lot of what is it like wasn't reading like a lot of issues of anything or going to the comic book store or anything like that. It was like that Sunday paper, you know, because you'd see them in the weekly paper, but the section was smaller. But Sunday they had the big like 2 pages. And it was
Yeah.
like front and back, so you could read like all these comics, and you know it was that for the longest time because I'd read like Curtis, Beetle Bailey,
Oh,
Brewster Rocket Space Guy, um, Zit's Family Circus, Pearl Before Swine, Shoe. I remember that one.
oh yeah.
Garfield, of course. Like so many of them. I even remember like Judge Parker, and that was like I don't know. That felt like a soap opera. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like I'd read it, but I would not get the context of anything they were talking about. And the art looked like way more grown up. So I was just I would read it just because it was there, but I wouldn't really
Yeah.
like connect with it.
Like
Um,
Doonesbury was another one kind of like that. I
Yeah.
think I don't know if
mm,
you ever saw that in your
you
paper.
said Doonesbury?
Doonesbury, it was
Oh yeah,
maybe not quite soap opera, but definitely a little bit more adult. Like,
yeah. But the art style is more approachable though.
yeah, true.
Because it doesn't feel as serious.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like Judge Parker, the art style just made it feel like a serious comic, and I'm just like,
Oh,
I
thanks.
just want funny stuff.
I think Will would you'd have some simpatico with Will on that. You prefer more of like the
Yeah.
how would you define it stylistically?
Um, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the Judge Parker art style either, and definitely liking more comedy. Doonesbury, I think they used a lot of political stuff in there too. Um, I mean, I've read that. I've read Berkeley Breeze, Bloom County, but mostly I was a big fan of Garfield and Zitz and things like that.
Mm. Oh yeah, those were, and it's funny. Like I didn't understand like because I thought all those stories were cool, but I didn't understand like the type of life those creators had to live to make those comics.
Mm-hmm.
Because have y'all watched the documentary Stripped at all?
I have not, but that sounds
It's
interesting.
oh yeah, it's I heard about it. I heard about it some years ago because I was watching the artist Jake Parker, and he was talking about the documentary because he was talking about Bill Watterson from Calvin and
Oh yeah,
Hobbes.
yeah, Bill Watterson.
Yeah, and how he's like one of those like kind of elusive figures. But he mentioned the documentary, and I rented it on YouTube and watched it, and it's just all these comic book artists, I mean comic strip artists, talking about the industry, inspirations, how things work, and I didn't realize like the daily comic strip artists are drawing comic strips every day.
Every day.
Um, like literally 365 they're drawing. And I, thought it was interesting because it's like I also grew up reading Shonen Jump. And that was a manga anthology, but at that time it came in a paperback. So you'll read the latest or the next chapter of whatever story was going on before, and new stuff would come in. Sometimes stuff would come in and get canceled, whatever. But with manga, I guess you'd say, I don't want to say the end goal, but it's like the standard of success is having like a long running series that just goes and goes and goes. Regardless of like the issues that some of those stories naturally run into because of writing and things like that, it's like having something that goes for a long time is kind of like treasured. But like the comic strip guys, they were like, they may, in the grand scheme of it, it's an ongoing story because it's a series, but it's like they're finishing something every day and putting it out like front to back. And it's like, you have 4 panels to like establish what's going on. You have like the punchline, the setup, the punchline, if it's comedy based or even if it's like situational humor. And, you essentially have like a limited window to do this. So it's I had like a lot more, not more, but like I had a lot of respect for it, learning that because it's like these guys are like finishing something every day, giving it to the I guess editor who gives it to the syndicates or whatever, the syndicate that gives it to the newspapers, and you know, I really have to respect that work ethic. As a kid reading the newspaper, I didn't like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know it all, but now I'm like, yeah, those guys are like probably some of the MVPs of the comic world.
And
Yeah.
I whether it's a manga artist or a cartoonist, the professionals, I don't know how they do it. You know, they're always consistently creating something every single day, and I don't know.
I
I
guess
struggle
it's
with my
like
webcomic, so
that would be challenging. I feel like in some ways that'd be almost in the creative sphere. The only thing I can really compare it to myself is like doing a television show. Is like even though there is development prior to like the weekly schedule, like now this was definitely more true back in the 90s, like 80s 90s, when you got like 20 to 25 episodes per season, and they're so they're working like 6 days a week, and the writers are like writing the stuff for next week's episode like the week before, and they're doing like rewrites as they're filming during the week.
oh
You
yeah,
only got 6 days
Oh,
an episode, like the entire thing done, like so like it's heavy schedule, but it's like so like every day they're working through that, and they're jumping back and forth from the writers room and stuff. So yeah, that's but I guess in some sense it's almost like having to do a 9 to 5 job.
mm,
It's like
yeah,
so like so it's like year round 9 to 5.
yeah, like no breaks.
Yeah, no breaks. Now I know some people like, I think I heard maybe even more so now. Will, you might be more familiar, but Jim Davis eventually
right.
trained some other people to like do some of at least the art for him. Like maybe he did like the writing, but then other people did the art. I don't know.
That's what I've heard anyway. That he's got some ghost artists and whatnot.
Mm.
I think he's himself retired, but don't take my word for it. We need to look that information up. But
Speaking of Jim Davis,
Oh, nice. The Garfield Treasury.
yeah, I got one of these as a gift recently from
nice.
an artist, and it was pretty, yeah, I don't know, just cool.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, because looking back, I'm like, wow, I'm like this guy, like, you know, this guy was really putting in work. Just like every day. It's I don't know, it's interesting thing about now is like every day you're like creating something for this, and then you know you come out to have like a book 4 years later or however many years later. Um, but yeah, Jim Davis is definitely one of like the go-tos, man. Garfield, just yeah.
Yeah, I think that was maybe similar for you, Will, but that was definitely my first comic love was Garfield. Like
Yeah, mine too. I wanted to correct myself right quick. It says here that by 2022, Davis, who is 76 years old, continues supervising the production of Garfield comic strips. He has no plans to retire.
okay, so he's not necessarily doing all the art himself, but he is supervising it
Yeah.
still. So he's or executive producing, maybe use a movie term. But yeah, I mean Garfield obviously, it's one of the few, I guess, of the daily comic strips, the weekly that took off and diversified in its mediums too, where you had the TV specials and the
Yeah,
eventually
movies.
I still haven't seen the full movies like with Bill Murray.
Oh, really? You haven't?
I have not. No. Yeah, I
They're
just
okay.
I guess
Yeah.
after Lorenzo Music died, yeah, I think he died if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he did.
Yeah, and like to me that was my Garfield, from like Garfield and Friends and like the all the specials. I'm assuming you've probably seen some of them yourself, like but it's pretty cool how that
Yeah.
caught on, whereas some of the others, like I don't know that I can't think of like say Calvin and Hobbes or Baby Blues or Pearls. I don't know that any of those have ever gotten like an animation treatment.
Bloom County did.
Did it? I know
Like a Christmas special. And
Dilbert
yeah.
did. Dilbert had
Mm.
a
TV
show for a
series.
bit.
Hmm.
But no, that's cool. Like
Yeah, not many.
Yeah, nothing blew up quite as big as Peanuts and Garfield.
Yeah, Peanuts. Yeah, for sure.
Calvin and Hobbes could have blew up, but Bill Watterson really was against it.
So you wanted to keep it comics only.
Yeah,
like,
he didn't want to be a sellout.
Mm.
Watterson. Of course, there's a lot of money in selling out, but
Oh yeah, I'm definitely trying to, man. I'm definitely trying to sell out everything off the shelf. Sell it off, like yeah.
Oh man,
lunch boxes.
It's a good business
Let's
model
do
too.
it.
Yeah,
have some minimum wage pencils and some Nomad hoodies and
Oh yeah. That might be kind of cool. Actually, well, hoodies. I definitely want to do hoodies, but pencils that would actually be cool.
Oh man, so
stationery.
That would be funny.
I'm just imagining a zip up hoodie where your character's face is right in the middle where the zipper goes.
Hey, that's a cool idea.
Through
his
mouth.
No, you can zip it all the
way.
way.
Or I could put it on the face and go all the way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you could even have a hoodie up there.
Yeah, might do that for the kids. Have like the ears and the eyes on there, and it goes all the way up. There's some hoodies like that are popular when I was growing up. This one brand made like zip all the way up, crazy all over print. But yeah, that definitely But that's the thing though. It's like when you look at how different comics like kind of grow from the initial paper, it's crazy because it's like like for example, this comic that I grew up reading. That I mean, a lot of people know this comic, Bone. Like Bone is like, and especially going back to reread it, like, looking at Jeff Smith's art, like we got some books in the house. My mom bought the Tukey book. I think it's A Quest for Fire, which is like one of his newest things. And she also got the Wrestle book that he did too, which I haven't read yet, but like, Bone is just like pretty pivotal for me, like art wise. And a lot of the inspiration for how I want to draw Nomad really does come from Bone. The characters, the mops, they're not based off the Bone characters, but they're inspired by the thing I love about the characters from that comic is that their designs are so painfully simple, yet still yet that makes them canvases for like expression and personality. And you see the three Bone cousins all like very different in how they think and rationalize and how they look at things. Yet, their base designs are just like so simple. Like they're, straight up cartoony. And, in characters, especially in comics, like I think that's great to have a character that's so simple, so recognizable, yet so personable. And that's inspired like the design for the mops and, just the way he draws, like, the world, like the characters, the way they interact with things, like just, I love the way he draws scenery, like the way he draws animals, backgrounds, the way he illustrates space in certain scenes where he wants to show you how big like something is. So many things he does, like, really like to me kind of like true cartooning, just how he draws, man. And like, yeah, that's definitely like but it's crazy because I'm like, that comic, I've only ever seen it as a book. I've never seen any Bone animation, anything. And I'm like, I feel like it, a story that's so big with the lore that's so deep, I'd love to watch that in an animated format.
Actually, there is a Bone video game, but it got.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They did the Great Cow Race.
Oh.
I think so. They got the beginning of the story, but it got canceled. I've got one or two episodes from Telltale Games. But yeah, it didn't last. I'm not sure why it got canceled. Maybe Jeff Smith didn't like how it was going.
Oh, dude. So he's gonna be down in Charlotte.
Oh.
At the Heroes Con. I was just looking at his website here.
Oh, wow.
June 16th to 18th. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So we've got less than a minute, and then we'll probably be back.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we're gonna pause. You got a few more minutes to spare, Elijah, and then we'll.
Oh yeah.
Nerds, we would love to find out who is on the other side of the microphone. there are multiple options by which you can connect with us. Our Instagram handle is @irreverent_nerds. We are on Facebook and YouTube as simply The Irreverent Nerds. Makes sense, right? And of course, we are on your podcast app. If you listen on Spotify, scroll down through the episode description and you will see a question. What did you think of this episode? We welcome your feedback, including your constructive criticism. We also post episode-specific polls and questions from time to time on Spotify, so please feel free to jump in and give us your 2 cents. All right, nerds, I've talked enough. Let's get back to this week's episode.
All right, we're back here with a live.
Hey.
Thanks for sticking with us, nerds. So we were talking about Jeff Smith before we left, and he's going to be down here in Heroes Con in North Carolina. And that one, I guess that one and the Raleigh convention are probably the 2 biggest ones in this state, I would think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Probably.
I mean, it makes sense. Those are also the 2 biggest cities. So
Yeah. Got to have some type of pool.
There's not really a great convention up here, I don't think, really.
There's the what?
There's one, I think there's one in Greensboro, right? Like a Guilford Comic-Con or something, or right?
Well, there was
I
there was a convention at the Guilford College. What the hell con? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I do remember going to that at least once or twice with you. Yeah.
There's like small cons that pop up here and there, but nothing like on like the Heroes Con level.
No.
Yeah.
There is like Eastgate, which is in High Point, but like still like close to Greensboro.
Didn't they just have Eastgate recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, was that hosted by isn't there like a comic book store called that too down there, like Eastgate?
I believe so.
I follow them on her Irreverent Nerds account, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, but yeah, Jeff Smith.
Yeah.
I know we talked some last time about him being an influence for you, and like you were mentioning that again.
Yeah.
I think what would be like of his, I guess, story arcs, like what would be one of your favorites of his, like, and so he's been doing it quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
Like since the 90s.
Yeah, him, I don't know, man.
Like,
because I think for Bone, like, because it's a real interesting story, and I think, the Great Cow Race was great, but the first thing I ever read from Bone was like the Rockjaw Master of the Eastern Border, where they meet like this huge mountain lion.
oh yeah,
Who's like, getting in their way on the quest, and although I can't remember all the details now, I'd probably say that was like my favorite one, just as like, the introduction to the world. Because it was just like, seeing these crazy looking creatures and, everything that was going on. Like, it was definitely like a really interesting story. So I guess like that's probably my favorite, just because that's the first thing that introduced me to his work. I remember the Ghost Circles. I remember that.
oh
That was like, I think that was near the end of the series, and that was like kind of scary, because it was like, oh, like, like the stakes are up now. It's like it was like one of those points in the story where it felt like, anybody could die here. Like even the main characters could get touched here. Like the way things were happening. So like that one was pretty interesting, just because of how high the stakes were, and how at that point how deep we were into the lore, and how many like reveals kind of led us to the point of understanding what was going on. So that might be like maybe my second favorite, because that one was just like the tone has shifted, like things got more serious, and you were really worried for the characters. Like I was really, like you're on the edge of your seat, like flipping the pages, because you don't know what's going to happen next to anybody. And it was definitely, I think, at its peak with like the supernatural aspects of the series, and how those were kind of overlapping into the main story. So yeah, that one, because everything had pretty much built to that point. So I don't know. Actually, that might be my favorite one now that I think about it. Because like the Ghost Circles was just like a crazy arc in the Bone story. Um, but yeah, like that was yeah, that was probably like that's probably my favorite one actually, because that was like really sick as far as like the storytelling and everything that led up to it. Yeah.
And they did kill off one of the main characters, not to spoil it for Richard. I forget the character's name though.
Um.
But that was sad. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. It's like So I'm trying to remember who. I think I know who it was. I just don't like. I don't want to spoil it, but like, um, I think I think I remember who it was. But I mean, nevertheless, though, it's like, yeah, it because at that up until that point, you never really got the feeling that could happen. Um, you know, and
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, like, well, this is what we're doing now. That's the interesting thing in comics when like you get to the point of like characters actually dying, and then it's like, oh well, you know, things just got real.
Nice. I was looking at the looking at the timelines on Wikipedia. It looks like his original, like his very first volume came out in 1991, looks like.
Okay. So I was off just
Uh,
a few years. I
And
thought he started in the late 80s.
like his last one was 2004. So he hasn't done anything since 2004. Is that right? Or am I looking at this wrong?
No, no,
Individual volumes.
that's just Bone. He's done other works like Razzle.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. So he hasn't done a bone um publication since 2004.
yeah.
Well, there's been some spin-offs, but I'm not very familiar with those.
There was one book. It was it's basically like an extra Bone chapter, and then the rest of it is like the backstory of like him doing Bone and like his history and stuff. I believe it was called Coda, and it was about the Bone brothers, Bone cousins leaving the valley, and it's just like kind of a short story of like their experience going back home, or at least part of their trip back home, and then the rest of it is like more like autobiographical or more background stuff with like Jeff Smith and the history of the story. Which I mean, pretty good read though, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I was just looking at there's a page on ghost circles here on Wikipedia as well, like talking about the synopsis, end times, the promise, darker truths, snap, crackle, pop, the root cellar, and prayer stones are like the headers. Or the is
Those
that
might be the chapters in the Ghost Circles book.
okay, okay. Nice.
It's been a while since I've read it.
Yeah, just a
Same.
little bit. It does sound that does sound interesting. I like I like fictional stories that do have some mystery supernatural elements like that.
Yeah,
I enjoy that.
yeah. I think a good portion of the stuff I'm reading right now is somewhat based in supernatural affairs. Like Jujutsu Kaisen. I've been reading that. I've been following that one very closely. Actually, I just read the chapter for that today, and it's just like I don't know, like it's a comic that's it's definitely been like thoroughly entertaining, and like just following it as long as I have now and seeing where it's gone is just like very cool. Because I feel like it's a good mashup of stuff, other comics from that genre, because you get notes of Bleach, you get notes of Yu Yu Hakusho, you get notes of what else? Like there's a few things that even a little bit of Hunter x Hunter, um, with the technicality of like their power system. Um, but like I've definitely been enjoying reading that. Um, I can't remember exactly when it came out, maybe 3 years ago, maybe four, because it feels like it's been a while now. But which also, it kind of reminds me of being a kid because, I got the Shonen Jump app, so I just read whatever comics, when they come out. But that one, I was, what else have I been reading? I was into a little bit of Chainsaw Man. I started watching some of that and I started reading some of that. It was pretty cool. But yeah, like Jujutsu Kaisen, that was definitely probably one of the like my most what is it? Definitely like comics I keep up with the most. That's definitely one of them. And like, I just love the supernatural aspects. They're fighting demons, cursed spirits, they're fighting, curse users, other like, evil sorcerers and things like that. And, you know, and right now it's at like a pretty high stakes point in the story. I don't know. I mean, at this point, that's the thing with reading manga versus watching anime. Like, you just become like a walking spoiler for anybody who's like only watched the anime. Because I'm thinking of all this stuff, and I'm like, well, dang, like anybody who watches this interview that's only watched season one of the anime, like I could, oh man, like I could just destroy all that for you. Like,
Yeah, which actually that's I think we'll be talking about that actually next week. That's we got another guest coming on.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, Zach Hutchinson. I don't think you've met him yet, but yeah, he's my barber actually, but he's really into anime. So we'll talk about that sometimes when I'm there getting my haircut. And I was asking him what he really likes, what he's enjoying watching right now, and two of the ones he mentioned we've already done episodes on, like Demon Slayer.
mm,
Did an episode on a while back, and then what was the other? Oh yeah, dang it. That one that Dan Johnson came on and did
Oh,
was
of course. Yes.
My Hero Academia.
Yeah, I was watching a little of that myself today.
Yeah, so those but this he mentioned Jujutsu Kaisen as well as one that he's been enjoying. So we'll probably be doing the episode on that next week on the anime.
oh yeah.
Which I have not seen any of it yet. I got to get caught up on the first few episodes at least, so I know somewhat what I'm talking about. Have you watched much of it at all? Not yet.
Jujutsu Kaisen, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I say it's a pretty good watch. I was actually thinking about rewatching it um today because I know like they dropped trailers for the second season.
Okay.
So that's definitely something I'm anticipating. Because there's a lot of things from the comic that you'll find people finally get to see in that season. And it also kind of directly ushers you into like the end game of the story essentially, or at least the beginning of it. Um, but it's like, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, the comic that I've been like happy about every time something happens with it. Like, when the anime came out, when the movie came out, I was like, happy for that. Because the movie's a prequel that's adapted from a prequel comic
Nice.
that's actually like directly canon with everything that happens. So that's what, it doesn't always happen like that because sometimes anime movies are just like spin-offs, but lately I've started to see more where they actually do tie into the story, like Demon Slayer with the Demon Train movie, like that. I remember when I was reading Demon Slayer, like, that's an actual story arc. So, from season 1 to 2 and 3, like continuity wise, it just goes pretty seamlessly. But yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen, Kaiju number 8 is another one I've been reading. That's pretty cool. Um, it's about a guy who, I guess, long story short, he works as a cleanup guy, like a janitor, because essentially there's this group of people called the Defense Force who protect the city against kaiju and giant monsters. And his sister is actually like one of the highest ranking officers in the Defense Force. But essentially, he's a custodian, and the group of people he works with, they clean up the dead monsters and the debris after the battle. But through events that I can't exactly remember, you basically realize develops the ability to turn into a monster himself. And he ends up joining the defense force and helping them fight against different monsters and kaiju. And that's when I've been into a lot, because like the art style feels a lot different from a lot of manga that I read. And I love like the creature designs, like I love the monsters, you know, as well as like the action too. But lately I've definitely been enjoying like good creature design in comics. Um that's something that I don't know, something I've just kind of like been grown to appreciate more. Like, I love when people can do like cool figures and humanoid characters, but seeing like good monsters and creatures is definitely something I appreciate in comics for sure. Um and especially in Kaiju number 8, and plus there's just not that many kaiju comics either. Um I mean, in general, I know like you have IDW, they have Godzilla and that whole they everything licensed, but like I haven't seen a lot of like original kaiju based comics. Maybe I'll do something like that in the future, but like I definitely enjoy being able to read stuff where monsters and creatures definitely have like take up some agency in what's going on.
Yeah.
'Cause good creature design, man, is pretty tight.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. So, and One Punch Man, been reading that, and their monsters actually have cool designs too. So, yeah. And that new chapter that actually just dropped today too.
Is that
So
through,
yeah.
is that through Shonen Jump, or is that through a different?
Through Shonen Jump. So I have the app. I mean, of course, like you can go online and read it like half a week early if you know the right sources to go to. But nowadays, I just wait and read it on the app because I don't know. Honestly, I mean, I just like supporting the official releases at this point. Like I've definitely
Yeah.
pirated my share of manga in my time, like most people, but unless it's a story that I just don't have direct access to that I really want to read, I'll just look at on the Jump app. Because there's definitely some comics that I do have to read that way because I can't just go. 'Cause, like it's not published in Jump, so it's not coming through like Record of Ragnarok that actually got an adaptation on what was it, Netflix, but like that one's pretty cool. It's basically gods decide that they want to end humanity, and a Valkyrie comes up with a plan to assemble a team of the strongest fighters of humans from throughout history to fight in a tournament against the gods.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's really good read. It's a seinen manga, so the art style is like a little more mature, still cool to look at, but not necessarily as like graphic or stylized as others are. But still really cool artwork and really fun story, tournament style, you're watching these crazy battles and it's yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, you get to see like Jack the Ripper fight Hercules, like it's very interesting, but it's like the thing that gives the humans the edge in the battles is that the Valkyries, I forgot what the word for it is, but basically the Valkyries transform themselves into weapons that the humans fight with. So they have like divine tools that fit their own strengths, and allow them to fight, against the gods. Like, like you get to see Adam fight Zeus, and that's like one of the best fights by far in the comic. I mean, everything from the art to the build up, the end of it. It's and it's only the second fight out of the whole tournament, and it's literally one of the best written and like best drawn. Um, so that's yeah, that's definitely another comic that I really like. I haven't read like the latest of it, but like that one is like, I don't know, that one's just like a real treat, lots of action, good story, not too dense. Yeah.
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 I find myself, I need to get a subscription to Shonen Jump because it's a good deal too, right? Like it's like what, $2 or $3 a month or something
I
like
think
that.
so.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
Yeah, it's like you go to like if you want to get Marvel or DC, or Comixology or something, it's at least $10 a month, I think, for each. You get access to a lot. Obviously, I think it's like almost the full. I don't know if canon's the right word. So I guess it's maybe a little
Catalog, maybe.
catalog.
Catalog's a
I
better
guess.
word.
But yeah, no, Dan Johnson was putting a plug for that too.
Yeah.
Our friend Dan, who actually used to write for Dennis the Menace, right? He used to write gags and stuff for Dennis the Menace,
Yeah.
the daily comic. So
But
Oh wow.
back
Hey.
he gave me $12, told me to go get 6 months worth of Shonen Jump, and I still haven't.
nice.
Procrastinating.
That happens to the best of us.
I haven't gotten much into. I've read a few mangas over the years, so just every now and then I'll pick one up from McKay's from time to time, like here in town, and but I have been reading a lot more comics in the last few years, and art like the Forsyth County. I don't know about the Greensboro Central Library, but the Forsyth County's Central Library, they have a really good trade paperback collection. It's like right up front when you first walk into, and whoever curates it does a really good job. There's a nice mix of kind of your more common ones, like your Marvel, your DCs and stuff, but then they pepper in quite a few indie comics as well, or like kind of like produced by some of the main publishers, but kind of in indie style, kind of like was it DC Black Label, that kind of stuff. Like yeah, like I can't think of the title of it now, but I read this really cool horror comic put out by DC Black Label not too long ago, and it was a really original story and just very engaging. Like I found it so much more interesting than anything I had read in Marvel or DC recently, which I know Dan Johnson kind of bemoans what he views as the downhill movement of Marvel DC.
Oh yeah.
He's talked about that quite a bit.
I definitely know he bemoans the fact that it's not child friendly like it used to be.
Now that I mean, I'm not a child, so that I don't really care about. I just want a good story. But yeah, like
you don't like reading about Captain America becoming a Nazi? I'm kidding. But yeah. Hell Hydra.
Well, Ledger, we're coming up on our hour here, so we should probably wrap this up. But hey man, thanks for coming on again and kind of updating us on your life and your art and stuff, and talking comics with us.
Oh yeah, man, no problem at all.
We really appreciate it. And as we say to our nerds every week, until next time, live long and prosper.
Sayonara.
Hey, out of here.
All right.
See y'all. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome, man. And thank you.
Oh, no problem at all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. If you would, consider following us on Instagram. We are there at irreverent_nerds. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Just look us up there at the Irreverent Nerds. That's our fan page. We have a YouTube channel as well. Once again, the Irreverent Nerds. Nice and simple, right? And if you go to www.irreverentnerds.com, that will send you to our Podcasters for Spotify, formerly Anchor.fm profile, where you can send us a voice message if you want to, support us financially, or listen to the podcast. It will also direct you to other places you can listen, like Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, you name it. So, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all those good things, wherever you find us, wherever you listen to us, we would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, nerds, live long and prosper. Avengers assemble! I'm Batman.